Why is this wood throwing off bright yellow shavings? You've probably never seen anything like it. Stick around to discover what it is and pick up some surprising bowl turning tips along the way. We've got our Osage Orange bowl blank mounted here using a wormwood screw in the scroll chuck. Before we got here, we took and knocked off the sharp corners at the bandsaw. Now we just need to get the outside round and start forming a tenon on the bottom of the bowl. Welcome to Turning Stitches. I'm Sean. We help wood turners learn the craft to begin making fun projects faster. All right, we've got a nice sharp bowl gouge here. We're ready to get going. We're going to kick this on. One of the challenges with Osage Orange is that it's a very dense wood. This is dry. This blank is dry, so that's going to make it even harder. So we'll be doing a lot of sharpening today, and we'll see if we can struggle through it. A couple other things that we'll have to keep an eye on. We do have some cracks. Hopefully, as we turn away this bottom corner, most of this crack will go away, but we're going to have to pay attention to that and use some CA glue or epoxy or something to kind of fill that in. So we're going to try to keep this thing together, and anyway, let's get started. I prefer to get the outside edge of the bowl round or the bowl blank round at this point, even though it's not completely necessary. Then once I've got the outside pretty much round on the blank, I start working down toward the bottom where we're going to form our tenon. We're going to start flattening this bottom face and trying to work around this corner. Also, being mindful of these cracks and keeping a pretty close eye on how that's holding together. As I get the bottom of the bowl flat, I'm starting to work right around the edge, and what I'm trying to do here is get my bevel engaged just a little bit, and then we'll be able to take kind of a long bevel supported cut to remove a bunch of material all at once, which will get the shape of our bowl. And before we get too far along, we want to identify where the tenon goes. All right, I've got marked out where I want the tenon to be more or less, so we're going to try to get the tenon at least shaped mostly, and then we'll work on reinforcing the bottom a little bit. Once I've got the tenon mostly formed, I'm going to grab my skew chisel, and this will allow me to get an angle on the bottom of the tenon that matches my chuck jaws. All right, so we're back at the lathe after getting some CA glue in here to try to stabilize some of these cracks. We're going to fix our tenon. It's a little out of round and a little bit too big, so we're going to work on that real quick, and then we'll shape the outside of the bowl. With our tenon refined, we've got our 1/2-inch bowl gouge back out, and now we're working around the corner on this bowl. What I want to do is kind of work off the bottom, really from the foot, all the way from the base of that tenon, all the way out there to the rim. Now in this case, I don't really want to reduce the diameter of the bowl very much, so I'm trying not to take a lot of material off at the rim, so I'm just trying to work around on the bottom, and I'm alternating between using a push cut like this right here, and then also shear scraping with my bowl gouge. Finally, I'm getting the outside of the bowl shaped like I want, where I'm just trying to connect that rim with a nice sweeping curve all the way down to the bottom or the tenon. We've got our bowl flipped around here, so now it's time to hollow out the inside. I've got a depth hole drilled here in the middle so we know how deep we want to go. So we're just going to start with our bowl gouge and start hollowing out the inside of our bowl. This is kind of an interesting shot here because you can see the chocolatey color on the base of the bowl where we haven't really cut yet, which is the way that Osage Orange, once it's exposed to light, it kind of oxidizes and it'll change from that bright yellow that we see here in the center of the bowl to that more chocolatey color out there on the edge that hasn't been cut yet. So here we're just using the 1/2-inch bowl gouge, really using bevel supported cuts just to kind of hollow out the center of our bowl as we work down toward the bottom of our depth hole. Added a little more CA glue to a couple of these small cracks that we've still got out here on the outside of the bowl. We're going to flush off this face and then start getting the wall thickness dialed in. As I establish the wall thickness out here on the rim, what I want to do is use my bowl gouge and use a bevel supported cut for the first 1.5 or 2 inches deep into the bowl right there on that rim. Now I'm not going to be able to get all the way across the bottom of this bowl with this bowl gouge, so I will be switching here in a moment to a bowl scraper to kind of clean out the very bottom, but I want to use the bowl gouge out here on the rim. So we're switching tools to this bowl scraper to get the rest of the mass out of the bottom of the bowl. So we're just going to keep working this down to the bottom of our depth hole, and then we'll get the final shape on the inside of our bowl. This heavy-duty bowl scraper makes pretty quick work of working out the excess material in the bottom of the bowl. With the dense hardwood like Osage Orange, as I was doing this, I just left my grinder running, and what you don't see here in the video is me going over and sharpening this tool several times through this process. So we've got our bowl turned for the most part, and luckily this turned out really well. We have very little tear out or anything like that. I am going to go ahead and make a couple light passes with the negative rake scraper. That'll just help us clean up some of the glue on the inside of the bowl, and then we'll flip around and make a pass on the outside of the bowl as well. If you want to learn more about the benefits of using a negative rake scraper, you can check out this video right here. And I like to sharpen my negative rake scraper really on both sides, so I can use it on both the inside and outside of the bowl. Alright, that got that cleaned up pretty well. We're going to sand it, and then we'll be ready to work on the bottom of the bowl to get our foot and be ready to finish after that. We're done sanding, and we've got the coal jaws set up here on our chuck. So now our last step really turning is to remove the tenon and kind of form the foot of our bowl down here on the base. So I've got my small kind of 1/4 inch bowl gouge out. I'm going to use it mostly. I do this for a couple reasons. Mainly, I don't want to get too aggressive as we're taking away the foot, and using the smaller gouge just kind of helps me be patient. This is the worst point where you don't want to kick the bowl off the lathe at this point. They don't always survive once you've got them final turned, especially since we've got some cracks and stuff like that already in it that have been glued and reinforced. So I don't want to take any chances. We're going to be patient, remove the tenon, get our foot on the bottom, and then we'll be ready for finish. So I've got the foot basically where I want it. There was a little bit of I removed some of the flat spot. So the last thing I want to do here is just kind of make a mark. I just want to get a reasonable guess. We're going to create a flat spot in the bottom of the bowl. Get our foot right about there. We'll add a little decoration here on the foot. We've got our foot on here, we've got a little bit of decoration, I've got a flat spot where we can put our brand in here. So now all we need to do is sand just right down here on the bottom, and then we're ready for finish. I added a quick coat of shellac so you can see what this bowl is going to look like when it's finished. We'll put a couple more coats of top coat on it and get it all buffed and polished. I love the Osage Orange and this brilliant yellow that we get at this stage of the game. It will oxidize over time and kind of turn back into that more chocolate color, but it is just such a brilliant color whenever it comes right off the tool. So I love turning this stuff. It can be a little bit challenging, but here today we got this bowl out of this and I'm pretty happy with the results.